Hello, my name is Monse Arevalo, and today I will be doing my presentation on Proposition 6 in 2024. So what is Proposition 6? Proposition 6 was one of the propositions that was in our 2024 elections, presidential elections, and the proposition was meant to make it so that forced labor with inmates is illegal, something that can't be done. This quote that I have here is from uh the explanation that the government gives about the ballot. It says eliminates constitutional provision allowing involuntary servitude for incarcerated persons. Basically, it just means that if an individual is in prison or is an inmate in the legal system, that they won't be forced to do involuntary community service. If they don't want to work, they will not be forced to work. Most inmates do have the option to get a job or do something with their education, so that way once they are released, they are more rehabilitated and able to find jobs. But there are still issues that inmates are dehumanized and taken advantage of because they aren't paid um minimum with like minimum wage, and they're unable to go back into the world after being in prison because of the felony charges that they may have or any charges about being incarcerated. Um so the origins of Proposition 6, uh while there's not history of slave labor in California, there is a history of forced labor. So it removes any sort of involuntary labor that's supposed to be some sort of punishment. And this was brought onto the ballot by Assembly Member Lori Wilson. Uh, she believes that it is unjust and unfair that many inmates are receiving probably like 24 cents or like a little like probably less than 15, and a lot of inmates were used to fight a lot of the fires in California that were happening a couple of years ago with the Paradise fires. And there's fires happening all summer, so a lot of the people that go to work on putting those fires out are incarcerated individuals. um and they don't get the same amount of pay, nor do they receive anything that is close to minimum wage. And there was a measure in 2022 that was similar, where it was supposed to make it so that inmates would receive mm, like minimum wage that is in California, but that did not pass because it was expensive. So the government didn't want to pay that, nor did the people vote for it. So instances of involuntary labor in Arizona, there in certain prisons, inmates recount that they worked as firefighters, and when they work, they receive meals and they receive calls from families and visits, certain things that they would receive if they were back inside the prison. But as they continue working, the longer that they work, those um, needs, those visits, the food, the quality of the food decreases in time, and they're being treated less than the people that might be in the prison, and they are still forced to go work even if they don't want to go out to work. There are examples of prison work dating back all the way to the Civil War, where inmates were required to work in mines and railroad lines and fields. Where private institutions, like whether it be a big company, would go to the prisons and ask for a certain amount of people to work on their jobs. And the reason they would do this is because it was way cheaper to get inmates to work than it was to get people who were actually like out in the world, like not paying for their crimes. And then in Oregon, inmates were being used as a cost-effective labor when fighting firefighters in regional forests. The inmates would be less inclined to reoffend because they learn positive social behavior and learning work skills that would benefit them once they are released. So the idea that they'll learn positive social behaviors is very popular as to why they continue having individuals work outside of the prison and like working. Not it's not only force fighter firefighting and fighting forest fires, but it is also a lot of construction work that is being done. Just jobs that are a little bit more dangerous than other jobs, like is what prisoners are doing. And it is cost effective because they're not making the minimum wage that many Americans are able to make. So why is involuntary labor an issue? A lot of the prisoners feel that is dehumanizing. They are seen as invisible and they don't get recognized for the work that they do. Um, because oftentimes, like when they are incarcerated or if there is a criminal record, they are dehumanized and they don't receive the same recognition because while they might have done many good things while they were imprisoned, the idea and the fact that they were imprisoned for something has a stigma. So that way, once they are released, if they even mention that they were in prison, none of the good deeds that they did while they were there would be really taken into consideration. And there's a lot of like shame that comes with being incarcerated. So when you know that you did something well and you've helped save many people, you can't really relish in the fact that you were able to help people and save a lot of lives because you are not receiving the recognition and you're still receiving that stigma of being in prison and you're not getting the pay that comes with it as well. And it even like increases their likelihood to become depressed and have suicidal ideations, and it also makes it more likely for them to reoffend. So some policy implications. The first one I have here is voting in the elections. Unfortunately, we are no longer able to do that because the elections have passed, but that would have been the first, so that way it could be voted out. Another policy implication would be banning court-ordered community service. A lot of individuals are forced to do community service to give back to the communities that they may have hurt. Um, and while this, in theory, is a good idea, if they are being forced to do the community service and it's not something that they want to do, there is not going to be a positive impact on their idea of offending and the likelihood of them reoffending unless they are looking to create change. And then our last policy implication would be more supervision on programs that utilize prison laborers. So when the prisoners go out and perform their physical labor or any type of labor that they're being asked to perform, uh, there is a likelihood that the people supervising them, whether that be a guard or a police officer or someone, will be likely to abuse their power and not treat them fairly. They may not be given the breaks that they're supposed to be given. Oftentimes, if you work a full 8 hours, you are required to have a 10 to 15-minute break and then a 30-minute lunch break, which is something that they might not receive if they're with someone that is against or does not treat them well. So more supervision in those areas would be beneficial so that way they're receiving humane treatment. And these are the sources that were used. Thank you.